Since the end of Mao's Cultural Revolution, disgraced former Communist Party superstar Bo Xilai upsetting the form on day one by denying one of the corruption charges against him and cross-examining witnesses in proceedings covered on state social media. The former governor of the rising metropolis of Chongqing was arrested last year ahead of the once-in-a-decade changing of the guard in China's top leadership. Amid the new leader's repeated pledges to tackle corruption and general wariness over the rising gap between China's haves and have-nots, the Bo Xilai trials, seen by supporters of new President Xi Jinping as a way of sending a message. But for many residents of Chongqing, it's simply the purge of a popular politician whose neo-Maoist rhetoric rubs Beijing's pro-market leaders the wrong way. To understand, we're going to be going to Chongqing in a moment. Today, in the France 24 debate, we're looking at China's trial of the century. With us from Washington, blogger Yashui Cao. Thank you for being with us. I want to thank as well Philippe Dufresne, author of 100 Questions About China in 2013. And also back from 6.5 years reporting out of China, France 24's very own Hala Moidine. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. And before we go to our panel, let's go to Chongqing in a story for Reporters, the France 24 investigative news magazine, prepared by Joris Silberman and read by Henry Morton.
A city of unbridled ambition.
This building is on Woi Road, in the commercial district, and it will become the Wall Street of Western China. It's going to be a huge project.
This is Chongqing, the megacity of Western China. It's here that one of the largest property companies in the city is building a new financial hub to equal its hoped, the likes of Shenzhen, Beijing and Shanghai.
The big financial institutions, the biggest international financial institutions and the major banks will come here.
32 million people live in Chongqing, the world's largest city, and it's developing at breakneck pace. Investment is huge. Local GDP growth stands at 15%, much more than the national average, and the standard of living is increasing at the same rate. 30-year-old Huang Ge is a typical Chongqing success story. He made his money in the financial sector and has developed a liking for luxury cars over the last 5 years.
In Chongqing, there's such a huge demand for Porsche Cayennes now that you can't find one at the catalogue price. You have to pay an additional amount to get one.
Huang Ge may be a big fan of sports cars, but above all, he's extremely careful about his privacy. Instead of an office, he spends most of his time in a 5-star hotel, meeting with fellow professionals, like the public relations officer of the Sports Cars Club, of which he's a member.
We raced with other club members. It's great. Some from Beijing, us from Chongqing. We met at 2 a.m.
Huang Ge runs his business from the hotel. A former employee of an investment fund, he is now his own boss.
Chongqing's a city where you can make your dreams come true. I have many friends who have their own companies and set them up in Chongqing. The city government really encourages entrepreneurship and provides a good environment for people to reach their full potential.
This is a city where economic success is everything. But 2 years ago, it was the politics in Chongqing that was making headlines. Songs to Mao's glory echoed across the city. The city's Communist Party chief, Bo Xilai, launched a neo-Maoist campaign, looking to mobilize the masses as Chairman Mao had done during the Cultural Revolution. But with Bo's dismissal for corruption and abuse of power, there are now far fewer signs of those excesses, although some people still sing these revolutionary songs. But people are less willing to openly talk about Bo now.
We, the ordinary people, have no opinion on Bo Xilai. Well, you know, I'd rather not comment on him.
Some in Chongqing have no fondness for the disgraced party boss. Bo Xilai is synonymous with a crackdown on the mafia who used to plague the city, but also synonymous with crackdowns on dissidents, something that Feng Hong knows all too well. This former forest custodian shows us the labor camp where he was imprisoned for a year in 2011.
There you can see the Fulin district's labor camp for re-education. I call it the Fulin fascist concentration camp.
While in the camp, Feng Hong was forced to work 15 hours a day. China has around 350 camps like this, holding more than 300,000 people without trial. Bo Xilai imprisoned 3 times as many people like this compared to the heads of other major cities.
In one of those buildings, there's a team in charge of punishments. They punish the newcomers in the camp. You're not allowed to eat meat, to smoke cigarettes, and you must endure martial discipline every day.
All of this was meant to cure Feng Hong of commenting about political life in Chongqing and criticizing the human rights record there. He often posts his comments on Weibo, China's equivalent of Twitter, and it was a joke about Bo Xilai's speedy justice system that prompted his condemnation to the labor camp.
Everything was fine before. I did well in my work unit, but inside the camp, you're treated like a criminal, like you've committed a serious crime. They put you in the same category as drug addicts and thieves. You lose your dignity as a human being.
Released soon after Bo's fall from grace, Feng Hong was the first of his victims to be recognized as falsely accused by the local courts.
Because of this 1 year of imprisonment, I've made the whole world aware of the human rights situation in China. I can make the Chinese people see what Bo Xilai had done. It was a valuable experience. I have no regrets about what I've done.
The bitterness of Bo Xilai's victims is only one side of the story. He still enjoys a large amount of support, especially in the old city, where developers are looking to transform the area. Among them is Mian, who is overseeing the demolition of this neighborhood.
We are in charge of improving the living conditions of people here. Once we have destroyed the slums and renovated the neighborhoods, everybody will be happy. People can't keep living like this.
The problem is that many of the residents they say they are trying to help complain about being mistreated and are only too happy to share their grievances.
How are we, the people, supposed to make a living? The authorities have asked me and my mother to leave our flat, but they've given us almost nothing in compensation.
For these people, there is one answer to their problems: Bo Xilai.
Bo Xilai promised to solve the housing problem. That's our biggest concern. I think he's a good politician. I support Bo Xilai.
When Bo Xilai and his police chief Wang Lijun were in charge, there were no thugs or gangsters on the streets. Now that they have fired Bo, the gangsters are back. Bo made big changes to the city. We still hope that he can be our president one day.
Bo Xilai's popularity comes from his social policies, in particular his construction of 40 million square meters of affordable housing, where we find Feng Hong visiting a friend.
Sure, they did invest a lot for the people, but it was not always the case.
Zheng Yu has been unemployed since a work accident. Fortunately, his family was able to get an apartment here. The monthly rent, just €6.
Here is the room of my 2 sons.
To supplement his income, Zheng receives €80 in benefits as well.
I have 2 children. 2 children. We have a hard life. There is no work, and nothing we can do about that. We couldn't survive without this social housing.
By building this social housing, Bo Xilai won a lot of support amongst the population. People thought they had found someone in power who would listen to them. But if you know what Bo Xilai did, what his crimes were, we the people actually suffered.
Bo also has his supporters among the neo-Maoists. However, since his fall from grace, any such political gathering is strictly forbidden. However, through the internet, an unofficial group of neo-Maoists has banded together. And while their movements are closely monitored, they still hold small meetings. Their first venue is a place far from downtown. But they decide it's too risky there and soon move on.
Is that car following us? Note the number plate, 7185.
Eventually, they come to a restaurant, which they deem to be safe. The head of the network, Han Meng, is a former middle manager in a nuclear power plant. Originally, around 20 other people were supposed to join them here, but most of them were stopped by the police.
1 year after the fall of Bo Xilai, everyone's seen big changes. All the campaigns and measures taken by Bo in order to make people's lives better have been destroyed.
The other two are activists, bemoaning the destruction of their houses. The neo-Maoists listen patiently to their pleas in the hope of gaining the support of those they consider to be abandoned by the Chinese Communist Party.
They tell people, we're going to destroy your houses and your lives will get better. But are these people able to say no to the destruction of their homes? Do these people have the right to go to Beijing and complain? These days, it's hard to say.
Despite the constant monitoring, the neo-Maoists continue to hold these meetings as a way of letting the policies of Bo Xilai live on. However, many are happy to live their lives without a thought for the former party boss. Huang Ge continues to enjoy his material wealth. He's also the co-founder of an elite luxury car owners club.
Hey guys, how's it going?
He regularly meets with the other 20 members of the club to race at circuits near town.
Let me introduce our best driver. He's the first Chinese to raise the flag at an international competition. He took part in the Ferrari Challenge race and won.
I work in Chinese medicine, and I do some import-export business.
He mostly plays music.
Yes, I help my family with the business, but most of the time I play music. I'm a DJ.
The club members can drive around this rich suburb without causing offence. And the party goes on in a nearby restaurant with a city speciality, Chongqing hot pot. The club is eager to avoid looking like some of the privileged classes here who feel that they are above the law.
It is illegal to race without permits, to drive after drinking and to exceed the speed limit. Those are the fundamental rules and our club makes a point of respecting those rules.
In China, the gap between rich and poor is still very large. Sometimes there are negative opinions about us and our club, but we try to avoid this kind of situation. We pay a lot of attention to it.
And that is China in microcosm, the fates of the rich and poor swirling around together in the melting pot that is Chongqing.
Joris Silberman and Henry Morton, that story for reporters, the France 24 investigative news magazine, Chongqing, where Bo Xilai was the governor before his fall from grace. Yashui Cao, what was your reaction watching that report?
Well, Bo Xilai is known for being demoted, quote, to Chongqing, where he has to fight for comeback. So he claimed the legacy of Mao, but nobody really thinks he's a real Maoist.
So when we see, for instance, when we see that one sequence where there were those so-called neo-Maoists who are meeting, what's that about in your view?
I didn't see it from where I'm sitting.
Oh dear, okay.
I heard it, but I can't visualize it. But what I'm saying is that Bo Xilai was trying to make make a comeback from Chongqing to the central government, and apparently that was somewhat problematic for people in the central, especially what was revealed after Wang Lijun incident. But he is obviously very talented and ambitious man, and most importantly, he's a member of the upper crust of the princelings. That all play into this trial, the current trial.
And why it makes it so important? He's a so-called princeling.
When you think about it, the people in China now currently who are not members of the political bureau, not members of the leadership of the government, but who are the sons and daughters of China's most senior Chinese Communist Party's most senior members, the founders, and they hold these children, these descendants, they hold a vast portion of the country's wealth now, and they have far-reaching political connections in the government, including the military. And in the military industry, nobody really thinks, when you pause to think, nobody thinks these people are sitting back watching. They are players in all this.
Players in all of this, and so we see the hereditary sort of, we're going to talk more about this issue of the dynastic leadership in China, but Philippe Dufresne, you said you went to Chongqing in 2008. The Chongqing that you saw in that report, is it the same place?
Well, of course, I can't say it's the same place because skyscrapers keep appearing. The growth, as they said, is very fast. The growth that used to take place in Shanghai a few years ago is now taking place in Chongqing as the growth is going inland. But mostly, I'd say the pattern is the same as in Shanghai a few years ago.
And how much of that is down to Bo Xilai?
Well, Bo Xilai has been in charge of Chongqing for a few years, probably the best years of the Chinese development, because China's development is slowing down now, getting more sustainable. So to some extent, Mr. Bo Xilai can take the credit for a very fast growth that maybe not be as fast from now on.
And that's definitely going to be something that we're going to be looking at. Very quick reaction, because we have to go to the break. When you look, Hala, at that report, do you think they're playing with fire by having this trial?
There is an element of playing with fire by having the trial, which is why it is so carefully stage managed, why it has taken so long to come to trial. But I also think that looking at that report, it's a perfect analogy of China on the whole right now, showing that wide gap between rich and poor.
Wide gap between rich and poor. And we'll pick up on that point when we come back. This is the France 24 debate.